So hi folks, here we are again with our monthly podcast, me with my Movember moustache, which I'll be glad to get rid of this, and with David Gray here, who's a local artist here from St Maur's, just around the corner, and we're in his lovely studio, so I'll give you a little tour about that in a moment. David,
yes.
First, you're a Coventarian, which is fantastic, my hometown.
Yeah. Well, I was born there.
Yeah.
Lived there till I was about 22.
Right.
Ended an apprenticeship, worked for another place for a year, then decided I want to live by the sea.
Right.
So I moved to the West Country.
But you didn't start by studying art, you started with technical drawing? Or?
Yeah, I started I left school and went straight into an engineering apprenticeship, which was a 5-year apprenticeship on the shop floor in engineering, working on heavy machinery.
So not even drawing? Or
Not even drawing.
Okay.
But in the process of going through various departments, from drilling and grinding and stuff on the shop floor, you go in the drawing office for 6 months.
Right.
And I enjoyed the drawing office so much
that
I took myself off down the art college to learn technical illustration, technical graphics, and did that as running alongside my apprenticeship.
Right.
So I was doing 2 courses at the same time.
What's the draw then to take you down to, to set you into art and also then down to Cornwall?
It was holidays with my mum and dad in Cornwall. I just loved it. I thought, well, why am I working 50 weeks in a year to have a 2-week holiday in Cornwall? Why not just go and live there?
But you weren't studying or doing art at this time, or had you already started?
I was when I was doing my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
I did do small paintings.
Oh, okay.
And they were very sort of shipwrecks on Cornish coast type things.
Right.
And I used to put them in a little gallery just up the road in Coventry,
Right.
where I lived, next to the Barbers, I think it was.
Okay.
And he used to sell them in there, and that quite encouraged me because I was just sort of ticking over with a nice few paintings. So wherever I've worked, I've always found a local gallery that I could put my work in.
Okay.
But it's not it wasn't a priority part of my job. My job was to earn money.
Right.
About a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I actually stopped and said, well, just the painting now, that's it.
And let's go to your technique, because it is quite unusual or unique, isn't it? Your use of is it mostly denim, the way it works? Talk us through the processes and how you do it.
Yeah, I do everything really.
Yeah.
I prefer to work on plywood. Yes, it starts off with the board being cut and prepared with gesso, primer, etc.
Yeah.
And then I take my denim and rip it with a knife, and then I slash it with a knife, and then I get a wire brush and tear at it, so there's lots of threads coming out of it as well.
Okay.
That then gets coated liberally, both sides, with primer, gesso, and slapped onto the painting.
Right.
And also texture paste as well, covers that all.
When you go to that stage, do you already have an idea of what you're going to do with that piece, or do you just create the textures and then decide afterwards? What's the way around you do it?
No, there's a plan.
Okay.
There's a plan. Usually there's a plan in respect of I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I will usually do a sketch the same size, working initially from thumbnail sketches.
Yeah.
I will build them up to the size I want the picture to be.
Yeah.
I will then cut the board that size of the picture, and I know roughly where. I don't like to put the denim in the sky.
Right.
Because it's too hard.
Okay.
I put it in the lower half usually, where there's lots of buildings and boats and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's more hidden. But
So you basically have an idea of where your land's going to be and where your sea's going to be and everything else, and you build up the texture on there with the denim, and then you start with the second process, which is applying the paints.
That's right. I start off initially with a base colour, which even if I think the picture's going to be a brownish picture to it, I might paint it blue or green to start off with, because I apply layers. And first of all, I'll put that base colour on, leave that 24 hours to dry, and I like it to dry solidly and hard so I can work on it then. I then apply lots of coats of layers, sometimes maybe raw umber is one of my favourite colours, and I apply it with a cloth. So I pour the paint onto my palette and get a cloth into a sort of a ball, and then I sort of pick it up very, very thinly and wipe it over. So you're thinking all along that you've got a surface,
Right.
which is you've got highs and lows and middles.
Okay.
So you can apply the paint on the high surfaces lightly, and you've still got the blue underneath. So if you're putting a brown on, you've still got a brown on the top and a blue underneath.
Okay. So you create pretty much the background first, and then start building the nearer stuff.
Oh,
the
definitely. In
details
fact,
later.
I virtually complete the whole skies and sea
Yeah.
if I'm doing that type of a picture first, before I do anything else in the foreground.
Yeah.
Because once things like masts and sails have gone across the sky,
Right.
I don't like painting around them.
Yeah.
I like them to be finished.
And it is quite technical in a way. I mean, my father's an architect and he does line drawings, and there's a lot of similarities in the way yours are very sort of, sharp, technical, which was obviously your background,
Yeah.
that you've brought into the paintings, which
Yeah.
is very pleasing because there's an extremely rough, raw edge to the denim, which is just sort of everywhere, and then you've got these really crisp lines on top.
That's right.
Right.
Which doesn't make life easy for myself, really.
I bet, trying to get a crisp line on a rough surface.
That's right. It comes to the point where obviously you can use a straight edge
Yeah.
to do it, but then if it's not going quite right, I'll pick the board up and look down it. So I'm looking down the line,
Right.
so I can see where it's wandering,
Okay.
and then start straightening it up.
So you have to then take the paint off that's already there, I guess, do you?
Keep applying more paint
Oh, I see,
on.
just,
And
okay.
you maybe have to rework some areas,
Yeah.
but it's a matter of just getting it to line up.
Right.
So
But the end result, you don't work in particular sizes, or do you? Do you have specific sizes, or do you
No,
work
I don't.
sizes to paintings?
I mean, I do work. I start really. My smallest paintings are roughly 220, 22 centimeters square, 9 inches square.
Okay.
Those are my smallest ones, and then I'll build up to any size after
Right.
that. My largest painting I did was, I think, and it was a triptych,
Right.
and I think it was 10 feet by 4 feet.
Right. Crikey. Wow. How long did that take?
A couple of weeks.
Really? Crikey. You must crack on with it. I'm surprised you can get it in here, actually.
Well, it was on. I had to make an adaptment for my drawing board, so it was sort of bolted onto there, so I could actually work onto it.
And I notice you do use drawing boards as opposed to easels, so you've still got the tradition.
Oh, I prefer a good solid drawing board.
Right.
In fact, when I'm quite lucky because when I worked at British Aerospace,
Yeah.
it was the largest office with about 20 draftsmen, and at one point in time they cleared out all the office furniture to have new furniture.
Yeah.
And I quickly went through all the skips and saved all the filing cabinets, drawing boards. I've got about 5
So
drawing boards.
this is all X.
And even the chairs, everything, and I think it all cost me 50p or something.
Yeah, really. Brilliant. Okay, well look, many thanks David, great to see. We'll have a little look around the gallery now, we'll have the scan which will probably come over the top, but thanks a lot for now.
You're welcome.